Hey, what's going on, guys? So I went through all of my horror films and picked out 10 of them that I felt were some of the most fun to watch around Halloween or any time of the year for that matter. So this isn't going to be like a top 10 favorite horror films or top 10 best horror films or anything. I could have put probably 50 movies into this list, but I tried to get some diversity and not have everything be from one specific decade, so I tried to span it across, the last couple of decades here just to get a bunch of different titles to mix in. So these are just 10 horror films that I feel are an absolute blast to watch, and you should definitely check out if you haven't already. At number 10, I've got Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer. Absolutely fantastic film. It's loaded with a lot of humor and wonderful performances. Trevor Matthews, who plays Jack in the film, gives such an amazing performance. He is extremely funny in the film. And this film has Robert Englund in it for the entire film length. He has a very large role in it, and it is my favorite role from Robert Englund next to Freddy. He is absolutely amazing in this film, and it's just such a fun film. It basically centers around Jack, who watches his parents get murdered by monsters, and he grows up with this huge fit of rage and cannot overcome this rage. And monsters come back into the mix, and he has to let that rage out somehow, and it's just a fantastic watch and a very fun film. In my number 9 slot, I've got Cabin in the Woods, and this film blew me away in the theaters. I was really looking forward to this when it first got announced, and it took a while for this to get released, and this film was such a good, fun time. And a lot of this is because of Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins. Their performance together and the chemistry with them on screen was fantastic, and the satire and the comedy to this film had such a natural feel to it. And, the story, they kind of tried to tease it around in the trailer for a while, but once you get into the movie, you kind of know exactly what's going on. And the film still took a turn that flipped you on the head and delivered an amazing third act. And definitely a fun film to watch. Cabin in the Woods, I thought, was one of the best horror films we've had in recent years. In my number 8 slot, I've got Dead Snow, and this is basically The Evil Dead in Norway with Nazi zombies, a snow setting, and subtitles. It is such a fun time. The characters are awesome in this film. This film also has a pretty good blend of comedy, and the effects and the gore in this film are top-notch and just look beautiful on screen. And I just saw the sequel to this, and that was just as good. Tommy Wirkola, who did this one, the sequel, as well as Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, really has a good sense for delivering gore and practical effects, and you get so much of that in this movie. A very fun watch, and it's Nazi zombies. I mean, it's such a crazy gimmick, but I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I think everybody should check this out. And don't let the subtitles fool you. Read the subtitles and just enjoy the film. It's a lot of fun. In my number 7 spot, I've got Adam Green's Hatchet. Adam Green, man, he killed it with this series. This is the definition of a fun slasher film. All 3 of these films are good. I prefer the first 2, and the third one I've come along and grown to like a lot more. But when this film came out, this just delivered with such a bang. I absolutely loved it, and Adam Green created one of the most infamous horror icons of modern times, and that is Victor Crowley. He is one of the only people that I know since Jason Voorhees where when he gets on the screen, you're just rooting for him to wreak havoc and cause destruction. And it's just such a fun time. He sprinkles in humor throughout the films, and he does humor with, grotesque stuff and the practical effects that just make it shocking. And, Adam Green has a really fun time with this. You can tell the people that put this together had a good time. And it's Kane Hodder as Victor Crowley. I mean, that is Jason Voorhees. So, I mean, he owns the role, delivers it perfectly, and the special features and behind the scenes of how they made this film, too, a lot of fun to watch. So definitely check out Hatchet. In my number 6 spot, I have arguably the greatest zombie film of all time, and that is The Return of the Living Dead. And this film just has a hardcore 80s feel to it throughout, between the costume design, the characters, and the music in it is just, I love the music in this movie. The music absolutely just makes a huge part of this movie for me, and it delivers one of the most iconic zombies of all time, being Tarman. And I had the pleasure of seeing this on an outdoor screen a couple months ago, and that was awesome to see that. It was super fun and cool, but this film just has so many iconic moments to it. It's a blast. The way that the zombies actually come to be is goofy and quirky and fun, and just everything about this movie is just fun. So if you've not seen The Return of the Living Dead, I cannot recommend this movie enough. Alright, so we're 5 down, got 5 more to go, and I'm going to squeeze one right into the middle of this list here. And I didn't include it in it just because I wanted to try to keep everything to more, adult kind of films. But this is perfect for all of you parents out there to share with your kids. I grew up on this film, and it's phenomenal, and that is The Monster Squad. This is essentially the Goonies with the Universal monsters, and, just slightly more mature than the Goonies, but this is perfect for anybody that wants to introduce their kids to horror or, limits them on some of the stuff that they want them to see. This is the film to see. Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, you know, The Mummy, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, all with a gang of kids that they call themselves the Monster Squad. This film is an absolute blast, and if you have not seen this or shown this to your kids, you got to. I cannot recommend this enough for kids. It's phenomenal. In my number 5 spot, I've got Dead Alive, also known as Brain Dead, and this film is just batshit crazy from beginning to end. So many moments in this film that are memorable. The film centers around Lionel and his mom, and she gets bit by some crazy rat monkey, and she eventually starts to transform into a zombie, and it's up to Lionel to basically keep that a secret and take care of her. And, you know, more people start to get infected with this, and it all leads up to this ridiculous third act in the film. But if you need your thirst for gore quenched, this is the film to check out. If you love your gore, this is the movie right here. And there's so many other good things about it. It's just quirky and goofy, over the top, just a super fun time, and so many memorable moments in this film. In my number 4 spot, I've got Shaun of the Dead. What else can be said about this movie that has not been said already? Just phenomenal. In my opinion, the greatest zombie comedy film of all time. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are amazing. Their on-screen chemistry is some of the best of any film, and Edgar Wright's script and directing is just phenomenal. The practical effects in this film, just the way that they make fun of, you know, the zombie cliche, but still keep a nice cohesive story throughout that actually has some emotion and feeling to it and heart, and everything about this movie is perfect. This is one of my favorite horror films ever, and definitely a fun horror film to check out. If you have not seen this for whatever ungodly reason, check this film out immediately. In my number 3 spot, I got 2 films because they're pretty similar and I love both of them. The first one is Night of the Creeps, and this film is basically about these aliens got these space slugs that find their way down to Earth, and they start infecting people by crawling down their throat and turning them into zombies. And Tom Atkins is in here. One of my favorite performances from anybody in a horror film. He just plays such a suave badass in this movie. And in the very beginning of this movie, there's this scene that every time I watch it, it cracks me up. And it's super hilarious. And if you've seen it, you're going to know exactly what this is. And to go with that is James Gunn's Slither. And very similar concept, but a different movie all in all. And James Gunn knocks it out of the park with this movie. I absolutely love this film. It's one of my favorite horror movies, and James Gunn is crushing it right now with Guardians of the Galaxy for Marvel and coming back to do the sequel to that. But if you enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy and that style of humor, this film is all of that same kind of humor, but wrapped up into a horror film. And practical effects look amazing in this movie. Everything about this movie is perfect. This is a perfect film in my opinion. You got Nathan Fillion in here, Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker, all delivering super memorable performances. Slither is a must-see. In my number 2 spot, I have what has become my favorite horror anthology film of all time, and that is Trick or Treat. Every time I go back and watch this movie, there is more that I learn to appreciate about it. There's so many little snippets hidden throughout the film that help tie these stories together, because it's essentially Quentin Tarantino doing a horror film in his style of filmmaking, like Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. I mean, the movie is that good, and it's executed perfectly. Everything about this film is amazing, and you gotta see it if you've not already. It's so good, and it's so festive. The thing I like about this is it's very Halloween-esque. There's pumpkins, there's trick-or-treating, there's costumes. You know, there's everything that you love about Halloween thrown into a film. This is the quintessential Halloween film right there next to John Carpenter's Halloween. And it is, in my opinion, the best horror film that we have had in a long time, and could not recommend this movie enough. Definitely check out Trick or Treat if you haven't already. And we got Sam right there, who is going to be a horror icon. One of the coolest characters that I've seen in a long time as well, and they got the sequel coming out to this that I cannot wait for, and this film deserves a lot more attention. And in my number 1 spot, I've got Evil Dead 2, and I'm sure a lot of people saw this one coming. The whole Evil Dead franchise is one of my favorites of all time. That and Phantasm are my favorite horror movies, and there's not enough amazing things you can say about this film. Sam Raimi's directing, Bruce Campbell is Ash. I mean, you're looking at one of the most iconic characters in horror history, and Bruce Campbell just owns the role and everything he did in this film. One of the most amazing horror performances ever. I mean, it was Bruce Campbell in a cabin with all sorts of practical effects, but he sold the movie. It all came down on his shoulders and his performance, and he absolutely crushed it. And just Evil Dead 2. What else can you say about it? It is right there. Number one, my favorite fun horror film to watch of all time. And yeah, that's going to do it, guys. So I hope you all enjoyed the list. Went through 10 of them there and snuck one into the middle. So let me know if you've seen any of these movies and what you guys think about them and what are some of your favorite fun horror movies to watch. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you're new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe and I'll catch you all next time.